Details from the all-hands-on-deck employee meeting regarding the return of Vince McMahon to WWE, what the employees thought, were questions asked, and details about if Vince McMahon will be returning to creative now that he's back on the board of directors with WWE. We've also got an update on Uncle Howdy, the identity behind him, and nobody knows who it is, even within WWE. Roman Reigns versus Kevin Owens has been announced for the Royal Rumble. Speaking of Owens, he will face Sami Zayn next week on SmackDown. Hit Row turns heel on the Blue brand last night. Liv Morgan will be in the Women's Royal Rumble match. Speaking of the Rumble, we nearly have the full 2023 card for the premium live event. Scarlett makes her in-ring debut on SmackDown. Speaking of in-ring, John Cena made his return to a WWE ring last week, but details behind that, and Naomi, we've got some details on her contract negotiations. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of WWE, and the biggest, of course, is the return to Vince McMahon to the company. He is now officially on the board of directors. A massive change in the board of directors in WWE. Vince McMahon's back. Michelle Wilson is back. George Barrios is back. 3 directors have left. On top of that, 2 directors have resigned. So a swing of 5 new people possibly coming in on the WWE board of directors. Enough for Vince McMahon to get any necessary votes he requires to get back into certainly positions of power when it comes to being the CEO, the chairman, which he already now is, and the head of creative once again. Now, we knew that yesterday, after the announcement that Vince McMahon had returned to the board of directors to return to the company as its executive chairman, there was this big employee meeting. And we said we were going to get details of that. We were going to speak about what was said, what was promised, what was spoken about, the details, the tone, everything from it. So Sean Ross Sapp of Fight for Select is providing these details, saying that WWE held their employee meeting yesterday, and information was kind of dripping through as the day went on. Now, the meeting was actually scheduled to originally take place at 3:30 p.m. Eastern time on Friday. However, it was pushed back slightly. It got underway just before 4 p.m. Eastern time. Why that is? Probably just business stuff. Now, talent was not involved. This was for employees. Of course, talent, the lifeblood of WWE, they're independent contractors. So talent was not involved. You would think maybe there might be a future talent meeting taking place at an upcoming Raw or SmackDown tapings. As far as we're aware, one didn't happen at SmackDown last night. Of course, if we get any details on that, of course, once again, we'll let you know here on the channel. So talent was not involved, and it was a meeting, but it wasn't a town hall. It wasn't a question and answer session. There were no questions taken. And it was stressed to talent that the day-to-day is not changing across the board. So the new day-to-day that WWE employees have come to expect, this improved morale, this improved atmosphere, the streamlined departments, the changes in departments, that's not changing for now. However, as to be the case, I think for a lot of WWE employees, a lot of talent, a lot of fans, they are kind of raising an eyebrow and rolling their eyes somewhat, saying nothing's going to be changing on the day-to-day because, of course, they've been lied to before. Now, they spoke about Vince McMahon being the controlling shareholder and the possibility of a sale, as well as the media rights deal. This meeting was led by Stephanie McMahon and Nick Khan, of course, the co-CEOs of the company, and Frank Riddick as well, of course, senior figure within WWE. Now, it was noted that the sale could be a huge positive and that they would be looking at potential sale offers before negotiating the rights fees. So, bear in mind, they're going to be negotiating these right fees, you would think, autumn maybe this year. I mean, to be honest, it might even be earlier than that. It might be summer of this year, really. And actually, negotiations could start, or certainly overtures could start fairly soon. So what they're saying, if that's true, if they're saying we're going to look at any potential sale offers before negotiating the right fees, that would suggest that actually this whole process of strategic alternatives, which means we're going to say the company's up for sale, we're going to see what offers we get. If we like an offer, we'll sell. That could happen fairly soon then, or we could certainly see a lot more momentum behind this quickly, more quickly certainly than was originally anticipated. Now, as is the case, because he has now changed the company bylaws to make this law in WWE, and the fact that he's the majority shareholder, has the majority voting power anyway, Vince McMahon will get the final say on a potential sale. He'll also get the final say on negotiating the television right fees as well. They also said a sale might not happen and the company could be taken private if there is a sale. Of course, at the moment, it's a publicly traded company. Previously, in the past, it was a private company. It was Vince McMahon himself that took the company public. The fact when they say a sale might not happen, some people can look at that and say, oh, there's a dastardly evil plan by Vince McMahon there. They just say that just to cover themselves. As a Manchester United fan going through a similar situation right now, some of you might be watching, or people that have watched United View might be United fans themselves. The phrase, the businessese phrase is strategic alternatives. That's what they're calling it. That's when they say where the club or the company rather is up for sale and we're exploring to see if anyone would put an offer on the table that we would be happy with. Now, Manchester United actually said a similar thing. This doesn't necessarily mean that a transaction will take place. Again, it's to cover themselves, and it's also because they want to get the highest amount of money possible. If they say we're guaranteed we're going to sell, then that comes across as a company that is desperate to sell, and that can drive down the price somewhat. When they said they're exploring it or we'd be open to offers, that ambiguity, that vagueness, that's part of the point. That's to drive the price up. But again, some people might be looking at it as Vince McMahon really has no intention to sell whatsoever. His long-term and grand plan is to get back into the company, which he's done now, is to drive the stock price up significantly and quickly. How do you do that? Regardless of allegations, and this is how crazy the stock market is, Vince McMahon knows that him coming back to the company would probably make the stock price go down. He knows that. So he says, okay, how do I counterbalance that? How do I return to the company and make sure I don't lose a ton of money? What I'll do is I say I'm coming back to have this strategic exploration of alternative ideas or alternative ownership of the company. Basically saying, I'll come back to sell the company. Or I'm going to be part of the process to sell the company. That's the only reason I'm coming back. And the stock market, they love that. So the stock price increases loads. Where in the back of Vince McMahon's head, he goes, I'm never going to sell. I'm just doing this so I get back in. It's a foot in the door. Once I've got my foot in the door, I change the company laws whereby I say to sell the company or to negotiate any television rights fees or media rights fees, I have to be involved in that. He's already changed those company bylaws. I'm going to bring in 2 directors with me. So I've already got 2 votes plus my own. I only need 1 more. 2 board of directors have resigned. I can then select and put people in that I want. Vince McMahon, overnight, in the space of about 24, 48 hours, already has complete control again of WWE. It's really happened that quickly because he's now got majority voting power, but he's also got supportive votes surrounding him. So if he wants in the future not to sell the company, he doesn't even have to sell the company anymore. If his grand plan was to get back in and get back in charge, he's done it. Anything else is a byproduct. It doesn't matter at this point. If he wants to appoint himself as the CEO or he is executive chairman, but if he wants to appoint himself as the CEO or the head of creative, now he would have the appropriate votes to do so. We don't know right now if he's going to do that. I think he's probably thinking, if I do it, I might have somewhat of a mutiny on my hands. I need to be careful. And also, the stock price is going up at the moment. That is making me money. And I want to be careful that I don't tank it because somehow, some way, despite the allegations, he's found himself in a good position. Now, the problem is for him is that if it becomes very clear that he really had never any intention of selling the company, the stock price will go down even further. And some stakeholders, some shareholders could even potentially sue Vince McMahon because he artificially rose the stock and then crashed it. Or they might just sue him based on his past transgressions, based on his past allegations of those unreported hush money expenses that were to the benefit of WWE. Now, as I mentioned, going back to this meeting, they said in this meeting that a sale might not happen and the company could be taken private if there's a sale, as I just mentioned. It was portrayed that this move was made to look at the market, to maximize rights fees, deals, and a potential sale price. It was noted that potential buyers could be more interested in WWE as a property than just a product that we see. Michelle Wilson and George Barrios' rehiring was mentioned as 2 people who helped sell WWE's biggest rights fee deals, which is interesting that they're putting that spin on it because Michelle Wilson and George Barrios were fired from WWE. Nick Khan was brought in. He was made the president of the company and the chief revenue officer. Michelle Wilson and George Barrios were fired because there was a sentiment within WWE they weren't doing a good enough job. And yes, they had got that big media rights fee deal, but that was largely driven by Nick Khan, who represented him during that time. And in addition to that, there was a feeling that, again, they could and should be making way more money, WWE, and they were not. Nick Khan came in and their revenue started to soar. So it's not as if Michelle Wilson and George Barrios are these incredible directors. What they are McMahon sympathizers that, again, will give him required votes. Now, the meeting was said to have been done very, very quickly. Other notes, as we spoke about yesterday, Manjit Singh resigned from the board. He was also the person heading up the investigation into Vince McMahon. So most likely he knows things that other people don't know. He knows circumstances that other people don't know. He also probably saw the writing on the wall thinking, if Vince McMahon's back, he's not going to keep around the guy that was investigating him, so I'm out of here. Now, Jeffrey Speed was also part of the investigation. He was removed from the board. So once again, if you think that Vince McMahon is holding grudges, he absolutely is. The guy that's investigating him, he's gone. Jeffrey Speed, also part of the investigation, he's gone. Joe Ellen Dillon was also removed from the board, but she joined following the investigation. Now, McMahon was not at the SmackDown tapings last night. He was not at WWE headquarters, and it was reiterated to Fightful in an official capacity from WWE, which isn't always the case. These companies don't always respond when you reach out for comment, but it was reiterated to Fightful and other publications in an official WWE capacity that creative is not supposed to change as of now. That's the key thing as of now. Of course, it's not going to change as of now, but make no mistake, in the future, I think this is... we know where this is going. Now, as per the transcript of the employee meeting, described as a, quote, rah-rah meeting by PW Insider, Stephanie McMahon specifically told employees that her father's return was intended to carry out WWE's potential sale, which could bode well for existing WWE talents. Quote, so again, thank you to all of you, Stephanie said to conclude the brief meeting. This is an exciting time. It shouldn't be a scary time. It's an exciting time for WWE. Our founder is back on the board and is going to help lead the process regarding that potential sale. This is what Nick Khan also said. He reassured employees that Vince's return to the board was not going to disrupt WWE's day-to-day operations, stressing that key people in the company would continue in their respective roles. Stephanie as chairwoman and co-CEO, himself as co-CEO, Frank Riddick as chief financial officer, Paul Triple H Levesque as chief content officer, and Kevin Dunn as executive vice president of television and live events. Quote, in terms of the day-to-day of the company, nothing is changing, Khan said. Steph is in her role, I'm in my role, Frank's in his role, Paul's in his role, Kevin Dunn is in his role. Riddick, the other top executive who chaired the meeting, suggested the possibility of WWE going private or entering, quote, some sort of cooperation joint venture agreement as the company prepared to, quote, undertake a review of strategic alternatives with the goal to being to maximize value for all WWE shareholders. Now, when it comes to further speculation on it, Brandon Thurston from WrestleNomics spoke to Busted Open Radio, and it's quite interesting. He said, quote, most importantly, WWE can't make a television rights deal without his approval. That's been made explicit. WWE can't sell the company without his approval. That's been made explicit. That's his big leverage. You can't make a deal, you can't make a TV deal without me, and that is the most important piece of their business, their US live rights deal, which I would expect to be finalized in the spring based on previous negotiations. Thurston believes Raw will stay on USA Network while acknowledging that Amazon Prime Video could be a real possibility for where SmackDown ends up. Thurston also questioned whether specific television and streaming networks would want to be involved with McMahon following several sexual misconduct allegations against him. Quote, it is important to note too in the letter that the board wrote to Vince, which has been disclosed now, that they allude to other things that they've learned that are of non-public nature right now that would paint him in a bad light, something we spoke about yesterday. Now, when we're talking about all of this sales stuff, who could be a potential buyer? Well, we've heard about NBC Universal, Comcast, we've also heard about Fox, we've also heard about Netflix, we've heard about Disney, Amazon. Well, a potential WWE buyer could already be on the table following Vince McMahon's return to power to the company. As reported by Michael McCarthy and AJ Perez of Front Office Sports, Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund is emerging as a possible bidder for WWE should the company decide to sell. Saudi Arabia looking to buy the WWE isn't the most preposterous possibility for the company's future. According to WrestleNomics, the WWE events that have taken place in Saudi Arabia since 2018 have generated $400 million for the company. That's a sum of money larger than ticket revenue of all WrestleMania 30, right? Let's start this again, right? Because this is how crazy this is. So all of the WWE events that have taken place in Saudi Arabia since 2018 have generated $400 million for the company. That's a sum of money larger than the ticket revenue of all 38 WrestleManias combined. Yes, since 2018, it's made over $400 million for the company. That's more than every single WrestleMania in history when it comes to ticket revenues. Now, with that kind of money on the table and WWE already being in the midst of a 10-year deal with the country, it certainly makes sense that a buyout could be on the table for Saudi Arabia. It wouldn't be the first thing that the public investment fund has purchased as well from Saudi Arabia. Of course, they're the owners of Newcastle United over here in the UK as well, and have involvement in several other companies and ownership of several other companies around the world. So that's the latest when it comes to the employee meeting. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'm sure more details are going to come out, so this is going to be a crazy time to be a pro wrestling fan, but we'll do our very best to cover it all here on the channel. Some other things I do want to get into today as well. Uncle Howdy. Who is Uncle Howdy, you ask? Well, no one knows, apart from a very small group of people and the person, of course, themselves. Since Bray Wyatt made his emphatic return to WWE at Extreme Rules, the mysterious Uncle Howdy has been everywhere the former world champion has appeared. During last week's episode of SmackDown, Uncle Howdy made his first appearance inside of a WWE ring, attacking Wyatt shortly after he accepted a pitch black match with LA Knight at the Royal Rumble. What exactly that match entails remains unexplained. There have been rampant speculation on who this puzzling character actually is, though it's yet to be revealed who's actually under the mask. And according to Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select, WWE is, quote, playing it close to the vest as to what Uncle Howdy's true identity is. This follows reports that Wyatt's real-life brother and former WWE superstar Bo Dallas was backstage at a recent episode of SmackDown, although that doesn't confirm he is playing Uncle Howdy. Fightful did say they've inquired repeatedly about the character's true identity, but were told that the person under the mask, quote, doesn't take it off backstage in front of other people to reveal themselves. So strong kayfabe going on here. Dallas has been rumored to return to WWE for a few months now, being one of the biggest names during the early days of the Triple H tenure of NXT. We'll have to wait and see. Basically, what they're saying is nobody knows. And when Uncle Howdy is in his full mask and makeup and all that kind of stuff backstage, he doesn't take the mask off. So people don't know. Roman Reigns versus Kevin Owens has been announced for the Royal Rumble. It is now official. Roman Reigns will defend his undisputed WWE Universal Championship against Kevin Owens at the upcoming Royal Rumble Premium Live event, WWE confirmed on the first episode of SmackDown of 2023. The show began with Reigns giving a dressing down to Sami Zayn, for the latter suffering a pinfall in their loss to Owens and John Cena the previous week, and seemed to be on the verge of dismissing the honorary Uso from the bloodline. Just then, Owens interrupted the segment and stated Reigns was misdirecting his anger towards the wrong person and that he should be livid with Owens for ruining the Tribal Chief's winning streak. Owens would then challenge Reigns to a title match at the Rumble, which Reigns accepted immediately. Roman, I'll see you at the Royal Rumble, Owens said to end the promo, and Sami, I'll see you whenever you manage to dig your balls out of Roman's pocket. The match at the Rumble will incidentally mark the third time Reigns and Owens have battled for a championship at the first WWE Premium Live event of the year, following their clashes at the Royal Rumble in 2017 and 2021 as well. While Owens prevailed in 2017 to retain his Universal Championship, Reigns did the same in 2021 in a last man standing match. As such, they're 1-1 heading into this year's Premium Live event. Now, speaking of Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, they will face next week on SmackDown. Yes, they're destined to fight forever. The first SmackDown of 2023 was presumably an emotional rollercoaster for Sami Zayn, who began the night on the verge of being dismissed, as mentioned, from the bloodline. However, it ended by sharing popcorn with Roman Reigns after the Tribal Chief apologized for mistreating him earlier in the night. In between all that, Paul Heyman suggested that Zayn could get back in Reigns' good books by taking on Kevin Owens in a singles match next week, ahead of the Owens versus Reigns match at the Rumble. Your Tribal Chief is giving you the opportunity to redeem yourself, Heyman told Zayn. Next week, live on SmackDown, it's going to be Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens. In response, Zayn initially looked discouraged about the proposed bout, but ultimately amped himself for a match against his former best friend. Yes, let's do it. I will take care of the Kevin Owens problem. I will take care of him for you, my Tribal Chief, Zayn said while pointing towards Reigns. Of course, it's rumored heavily that Sami Zayn will be challenging Roman Reigns for the Undisputed Universal Championship at Elimination Chamber in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. That being Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn's hometown in February. How they get there remains to be seen, though. Heel turn settings last night on SmackDown following his loss to Ricochet in a Royal Rumble qualifying match on last night's episode of SmackDown. Top Dollar, alongside the rest of Hit Row, turned heel in a post-match beatdown. Hit Row attacked Ricochet after he was lured in for a post-match handshake by Top Dollar, but the beatdown didn't last long as Hit Row was promptly run off by Braun Strowman. Hit Row's heel turn comes after a tag team loss to reigning undisputed tag team champions the Usos 2 weeks ago on the Blue Brand show on Fox. Last week, Top Dollar had a brief confrontation with Ricochet backstage to set up their match on Friday. The former Universal Champion save of Ricochet comes just 1 week after he was saved by Ricochet from the beatdown at the hands of Imperium. Strowman, of course, is set up for an Intercontinental title match against Gunther next week on SmackDown. Strowman, of course, is a former Intercontinental Champion. Ricochet's victory over Top Dollar secured entry into the Royal Rumble match, which makes him the third man to enter the match so far. Also confirmed for the men's match are Kofi Kingston and Santos Escobar. Speaking of the Royal Rumble and the Royal Rumble match, Liv Morgan is the first woman to declare her entry into the Women's Royal Rumble match. It was announced actually to a backstage promo from Liv Morgan that not only will she be entering the Royal Rumble, if she has it her way, she would enter as number 1. Michael Cole dropped a funny retort after the package, noting that he would personally choose to enter at number 30, but good for Liv. So Liv Morgan is in the Women's Royal Rumble match, and I think more names are going to be announced in the next couple of weeks. Speaking of the Rumble too, we kind of have, I guess, a decent look at what the card is going to be for the premium live events. In the current Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave Meltzer states, quote, "We did get a lineup that was with planned listing for the Royal Rumble written in mid-November, which listed the Pitch Black match, Reigns versus Owens for the title, the Brood Edge versus Demon Balor in Hell in a Cell, and Rousey versus Raquel Rodriguez for the SmackDown Women's title as the rest of the card. Obviously, Rousey versus Rodriguez was changed, and Flair versus Rousey would make sense for the show, stemming from the past week's SmackDown. So that's really what they're kind of suggesting here. He's suggesting it's going to be both Rumble matches. We're going to get that Pitch Black match between Bray Wyatt and LA Knights. We're going to get Reigns versus Owens. We're going to get that Hell in a Cell match, which really hasn't had any build just yet. Edge could return at any point. But let me know your thoughts about that card in the comment section below. Certainly an interesting one. Scarlett made her in-ring debut last night on SmackDown. On last night's edition of SmackDown, Scarlett teamed with Karrion Kross to take on Emma and Madcap Moss. Scarlett has not been seen wrestling on WWE television ever, despite being a character fixture alongside her real-life husband Kross. Getting in some offense and showing some impressive in-ring attire, Scarlett picked up the win for her first televised effort on the main roster. Karrion Kross and Scarlett picked up a relatively fast victory over a fellow real-life couple in Madcap Moss and Emma. Of course, in recent weeks, it's been teased that Kross is going to be feuding with Rey Mysterio. Last night, he even put a mask of Rey Mysterio on Madcap Moss, seemingly furthering their potential feud. John Cena made his in-ring return to WWE last week on SmackDown, and in the Wrestling Observer, Dave Meltzer has commented on some backstage details regarding the former 16-time world champion's return to in-ring competition. Quote, "The story of John Cena doing his only match of 2022 on the last show of the year from Tampa also led to WWE having its largest audience and most watched match of the year. The match, heavily promoted on all NFL broadcast on Fox the weekend before, led to the show doing an average of 2.631 million viewers and a 0.64 average in the rating in the 18 to 49, even with the head-to-head competition of the Orange Bowl on ESPN. The match would see Cena team with Kevin Owens to take on Roman Reigns and Sami Zayn of the Bloodline. Meltzer would also reveal the ticket sales for the episode of SmackDown, saying, quote, "The return of Cena drew what was announced on television as a sellout of 15,738 fans. The WrestleTix number was 13,850, which for all real purposes was a sellout. There were some seats opened up the last day after production moved in, not sold, but they were scattered, and the paid number was 12,700. They moved more than 6,200 tickets after the announcement that Cena was on the show, and nobody for any show aside from Mania moved tickets like that this year." He would also reveal the viewing figures for the show, stating the start of Cena and Owens versus Roman Reigns and Sami Zayn did 2.617 million viewers and 860,000 in the 18 to 49 demographic. With regards to the match itself and the precautions taken to protect Cena, Meltzer said, quote, "For the Cena and Owens versus Zayn and Reigns match, everything was said to be very carefully done. Cena hadn't been in the ring for a long time and was obviously being protected. With all the push by Fox and on the NFL games for the match, the feeling was Cena had to hit an attitude adjustment and look strong, which was the case as Cena and Owens won the match." finally, there's been a lot of talk about Mercedes Moné this week, and it's led to speculation on what is the status of Trinity Fatu, aka Naomi, following Sasha Banks' departure and subsequent New Japan Pro Wrestling debut. Well, previous reports indicated that Naomi had originally intended to return to WWE with Mercedes, but had to make a decision about her WWE future without the boss. With Naomi traveling to Japan to be with Mercedes for Wrestle Kingdom, some have speculated that the two could be reunited in a ring outside of WWE soon. Per Dave Meltzer in the latest edition of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, talks between WWE and Naomi are ongoing, but no new deals had been signed as of the middle of the week. So, as of right now, she still hasn't signed a contract with WWE. We still don't actually know her previous contract status, but what we do know is that she is not going to be returning to WWE in the immediate future. But there you go, guys. That's the latest WWE news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe bottom right-hand corner. Let me know your thoughts on today's WWE news stories in the comment section below, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.